Here.
Chairman Gray.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. We'll go ahead and, everybody had a chance to look at the agenda? If so, I'll entertain a motion for accepting the agenda as proposed.
All motion.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to communications correspondence, public comment. Now this board information, you doing that? Or is that Kelly? Board information, is that,
Either one, I'll take it.
okay,
This one actually is, it's that time of year where we're closing out the fiscal year. And so what we found is we always put on here about what we're allowed to do and not do, as we close this out. And then our next meeting in July as we prepare for the next budget. So it's just good to, what the bylaws allow us to do and not do. The primary use of funding is one mil recreation levy on the assessed value of the school district imposed by the school board. So in their July meeting, they give permission for, as part of their budget, to set up for the rec board. Funds are received to the rec mill primarily in November and May from the county treasurer. That's really a frequently asked question about when does the money come in and where does it come from. Rec board funds may be used. This one's actually really important because I'm going to be following up with the rec board about a greenhouse proposal for Parson Eden School. So rec board funds may be used for the development of recreational facilities, construction, programs, maintenance and operation, and equipment within the school district. Rec board funds may be allocated and expended for recreational purposes. Monies may be used to support educational needs of students, school community use, and community use as a whole. The school board cannot direct the rec board on purchases or expenditures. One moment, guys, this is Mr. Patolo. Hello. Okay. Do you have your email with you, or I can put it on speaker? Okay. And then have you call in? I'll let Dylan know. Yep, we just started. Sure, that would be fine. I'll go ahead and I'll put it on speaker. Okay. Okay. Rec board members.
Folks, I screwed up.
So I have Mr. Batolo on the phone to attend.
welcome, John.
Sorry, guys, I misscheduled this somehow. I don't know how I did that, but I did.
So, Chairman Gray, if I may, we're actually going through on the agenda. And John, we're just going through what the rec mill funding allows us to do by state statute. And on the last bullet, it talks about where the school board cannot direct the recreation board on purchases or expenditures. The rec board, you cannot commingle rec board funds with the city or the county. We're our own rec board within the school district. So again, just nice to have on there to make sure that we do the right thing with the board's decision on the allocation of funds.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting in May? If so, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
All motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to board warrants and reimbursements.
Okay, thanks. Dylan, would you be kind enough to pull up the warrants piece? Very good. The item before you is the reimbursement to the general fund and also for the underlying projects themselves. And there was some hardness testing, some annual maintenance for the fitness centers at the junior high, the high school, and then an inspection at the junior high for a total of $51.75.
Can we do that separate? Or
Just do one motion.
just do one motion? We just do one motion on the reimbursements?
Yeah, the reimbursement and then the underlying, projects.
Any discussion, any questions?
Nope.
All right, that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the warrants and reimbursements as
A
reported.
motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Update on rec board projects.
Okay.
Dan, Mark,
I can start us off because I'd like to cover just the things that have happened since last board meeting instead of going through all of them together. And so if you look at the recreation budget, data 10-6. The first two items, that's what we just approved in the warrants, those jobs there. The next thing that had changed, or we need an update, are the turf and the track field at the high school. So Mark, if I could kick that over to you. And
Okay, so I think as most of you know, we're still not complete from our install project. We've got some issues there that we're working through with Hellas. They were up approximately 3 weeks ago and did a survey of the whole area. And they assure me they're going to be getting to me within the next week on their complete plan to remedy all the issues that are up there. Part of it, our owner's rep has given his opinion on some of the repairs that need to be done, and they're actually taking that and moving forward with it. So it's going to be a kind of a new install repair to help fix some of the issues for some of the curb wall and stuff like that up there.
will they be able to get everything done by the time school?
They say they will. I mean, I did contact them last Thursday and told them, hey, you don't even have a plan put together yet. Where are we at with things? And they assured me they have a plan. They're just wrapping a few things up. They've been working with the local concrete company because part of the problem is their concrete failed. So they're working together on putting a plan together and gonna get this rolling, hopefully within a week is what I was
so
told.
are they gonna have to tear up the track completely? for
No.
repair?
That was part of the repair that our owner's rep come up with, was over there on the sidewalk where the curb wall is that's not staying together well. We're gonna pour concrete up to it from the building and fill in that whole area. And then they're gonna cover it all with track surface. And that's gonna stop them from having to tear out track and track surface and start over. They've also assured that they're gonna give us the warranty that they originally said, and then some. So
You're gonna get that in writing, right?
we are. Yep. I told them I have to have it in writing.
Okay. And the next item, the scoreboard engineering study, that one, I mean, all that's behind us, right?
Yes.
And also the welding for the scoreboard and the
Yep.
scoreboard itself.
Yep. That's all done. It's complete and been paid, and
Okay, so that part of the project is complete.
yes.
John, are you able to hear everybody when we are speaking through the phone?
I can hear Mark. That's the only one I can hear right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Kelly.
No, that's okay. I was just checking to make sure.
Okay, then I'd like to jump down to the Rock Springs Junior High Turf Field evaluation, and that was one of the things that we approved under the warrants as well. And so, Mark, can you give us a?
Yes. So the gentleman was out and did his inspection of the turf field and and a track. Of course, the turf field he's come up with is that it's wore out and needs to be replaced. The track, he feels, can just be resurfaced, which is different than what we had planned on. But I have discussed it a little bit with Dan, and we kind of got to go through his report and put something together from his report.
Okay, and then I think that's it. The rest of those items, I think nothing has changed since the last board meeting, unless you have
You got
anything
any
to add.
updates?
Dan?
Yeah,
Should know
let's start with the Stagecoach gym floor. Mark Booth and I were talking about that earlier. They're gonna be starting that on Friday. We did go out and get prices. We didn't go a formal bid since this was actually an emergency, in order to get this floor done so that we don't stop the kids from not having a gym class. But we did call a couple of companies, larger companies, to get prices, and so we are moving forward on it. I was up in Farson about 2 weeks ago, and Mark, I had sent you a text. Did they finish the sod? Because I was here 2 weeks ago, and they had a lot of it done, but I didn't see that it was all done.
The what? The sod?
Sod.
He's done everything that was planned to be done.
Okay. All right. So then that is completed.
Yep. You remember there was some removed to get to the budget.
Right. That's right. The resurfacing of the gym, or not the gyms, the stages, auditorium at the high school, and also at Farson, all the materials have been ordered. They didn't have all the materials in stock. So it's here. Okay, Mark's telling me that it's here now. So we'll hire somebody to come in. They have to paint all 8 sides, and we've got a guy lined up, ready to go as far as installing. And other than that,
And we've retained a contractor to get that done. So
yeah.
remember in the
What-
past, we've had trouble finding somebody that's willing to do that. So
And then also on the, what the heck was it? The master plan. On the master plan, one of the things I wanted to make sure was that we were in sync with our board policies and the state statutes. Generally, when we do a feasibility study with the state, they give us $25,000, and that's to do a feasibility study on a major building like a school. So I know we've kind of budgeted $45,000, and this is going to be a fairly decent sized project to do, but nowhere near the scope of what a school would be. So I'll go ahead and move forward with procuring an architect just to do the feasibility study here this month. Well, July.
So he's looking to do a study on whether to keep it there or move it?
What our options would be, just to explore options and generally come up with maybe 2 or 3 different ideas. Whether it's a total revamping of that area or moving it to another location altogether.
And what project is this? Oh, the tennis courts, okay. Okay.
That's it for an update from me.
Okay. Is there any more updates or discussion on the projects? All right, we'll move on to item 8, update preliminary budget. It moves the Rock Springs High Track board and timing system to junior high.
Yeah, I can take those. So for the first, I was able to update some of our numbers. We got a fairly decent estimate for the assessment for the county just the last few days. And so I updated the projection for that. So they ended up being about 15.7% decrease. So the estimate was a little bit higher by 8,000 or so. So it was still pretty close. We did get a large check from the county treasurer last week as well, of a couple $100,000. So I went ahead and updated the cash on hand that we have as of today, and with an estimate for the interest that we'll get in the month of June. So we have an updated total revenues and resources of a little over 10 million, 10.9, almost 11. And then if I could hit item A as we're going down, to move the Rock Springs High School track board and timing system to the junior high. We did get a quote on that, and thank you, Mark. And it came in at $26.89 and some pennies, and I took the liberty to round that up to 3,000. Do you think that's still a decent
Oh, yeah.
number?
Yeah, that's a very fresh quote.
Okay, so that item will be in the preliminary budget, the last item under expenditures with the 100 right next to it. So the top section. Okay, the next thing I changed was the Rock Springs Junior High turf field replacement. And originally we had the design starting in fiscal year 2023, but we changed that to 2022 as part of it might start the end of next spring. And the next item is 8B, the Farson Eden Greenhouse. And on the preliminary budget, I didn't put in a dollar amount because at that time we were still waiting on a legal opinion and more information. But I did put in parentheses what the total was, including an 8% contingency. And Superintendent McGovern, do we have any updates to that item that we need to?
For the
Sure.
greenhouse, I do actually. I was on the phone gathering some more information right before our meeting here. Essentially, the greenhouse project, what started it was the school was approached by the Sweetwater County Conservation District. And for a long time, they have had a heck of a time growing trees up in the Farson area due to the soil and climate, those kind of things. So they approached the school with their FFA program, Future Farmers of America, and was interested in having the students grow the saplings and then having those sold as part of FFA. And the money from the sale of those would be used to buy future trees. So it would essentially be the seed money to get this project up and going. However, what we had in the last meeting was, or we didn't have, was the school had actually submitted a grant to the Conservation District. I have a copy of their grant for $3,848. It is for the soil, the rakes, all those kinds of things that would be usable inside the greenhouse to get it going. They received the grant for that, for $3,800. What they're interested in asking the rec board for is the startup cost for the actual greenhouse. However, to get the price for that, they started off and went to a greenhouse mega store, which I believe was sent out to the rec board last month. It was for $75,335. When they got that amount, because usually if an item comes before this board, it will be, well, how much is that as we go to create the budget? So with that, they said, well, what would happen if we got some other prices? And that is where they, Mark, I believe you helped them, where they went to another company that would charge $25,000. And then if they bought, and that is for the water lines, the plumbing, to assemble the greenhouse, the concrete for the floor of the greenhouse, And then they went also online to get the cost of a greenhouse. So one company would put it together but buying a separate greenhouse, and that was 17,995. So to total the 17,995 and the 25,000 puts the project roughly at around $43,070. Or you could go with another quote, which was 75,335. I believe that part came to the before this board. However, the question was, is this an allowable cost for the rec board to do? So that was where it was tabled, or not tabled, but that's where this board asked for more information to proceed with. So I talked with Barbara today about that, about where that would come from. And then I also pulled the bylaws for the rec board, which I'm glad we had it on the agenda for today as well. The question that comes up is, so for example, for the rec board is, through rec board funds, we have used and bought weightlifting equipment, things that have to be open to the community for recreational use. So the question that I would have is, could a group in the community, like a 4-H group, could they use this greenhouse for community use? And there has to be a component where outside people, the community, have access to it. So when I asked for some more information on that, she said directly, no, the community would not have use for the greenhouse because it's not big enough for that. It's 18 by 36 feet. They would, and I apologize, I have everything on these sticky notes, so that's my high quality report coming to you right now. But it would be located in between their pump house out there in Farson and the entrance to the football field. The trees would not be sold to anyone that had less than 3 acres in Farson. And the idea is for the FFA students to learn the agricultural piece of this in order to make the saplings grow. I asked Barbara about the community use, and she said, no, the community would not use the greenhouse, although the students who are members of the community would have access to it. I asked her, what is the community component? And she said, its benefits to the community are not in the ability to access and grow things in the greenhouse, but in the access to the knowledge gained and shared by the students, the opportunity to access viable trees to plant in the community for their wildlife habitat, the soil and water conservation. So the community would not go in and be able to say, I think I want to plant some things and come in here. But her outreach would be from the product when it is sold back into the community.
Is the FFA,
Kelly,
go ahead, John.
John, go ahead.
Kelly, can you tell me why it's they can't sell anything to anyone less than 3 acres?
That was, yes. The reason for that is because the idea here is not to compete with businesses or places that sell plants and trees, nurseries. It was not to do that, a direct competition with those smaller areas. The idea when the conservation district approached the school was they knew that trees had a hard time growing out there, and they wanted to use this as an opportunity for the students to be able to learn about the agricultural and the ranching effects out there, while at the same time having a bigger impact, but not competing with local nurseries.
Okay.
You got anything else, John?
No, I just, it feels a little bit shaky as far as the community's use of that facility. I mean, it's not like, to be real honest, we don't usually invite a whole lot of people in to use the weight rooms either, but I suppose if someone wanted to use it, we'd have to provide that opportunity, right?
Yes, we would. And actually what happens the majority of the time on a weight room use, now Farson is a little bit different with their weight room because that is the community rec center up there. They don't have any other place to go. But here in town, for example, if we do get a facility use request for a weight room, it's difficult for people because a lot of times they'll want to use it when a team is practicing or lifting weights and using the actual weight room. So they could have access as long as it doesn't compete with the student sponsored activities, which would take priority.
I guess my question would be, is FFA a school-sponsored affiliation?
It is. It is through Wyoming High School Activities Association. It's a sanctioned event. And Farson does have an FFA club that they started. They have a sponsor for that actually works. I don't know if we pay year round for her, but it extends her extra duty stipend extends outside of the school year just because of the requirements of FFA.
Well, I guess where I was going with that is I would consider FFA a community-sponsored group, not just school. And I think that could be construed as community support and community access, would it not?
The community has access by going to that FFA program or joining that program. That's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I'm saying that the FFA kids and the program director and the sponsor are all part of the community. I kind of see where Barbara was going with what her response was, but I would say that is more of a community effort, which is community access, than just school sponsored. Am I wrong? Or am I just treading a thin line there, Scott?
Yeah, well, to me, there's the issue of the access, but it doesn't have to, the right thing and what we've done in the past is to open it up to the community, although that's not solely restricted based on, what their information has. It could be a school use solely. But I also have an issue with they're making money on taxpayers' money. That's my biggest sticking point.
John, can you hear Scott?
I can't hear Scott. I've heard most of everybody else, but I can't hear Scott.
Okay. Dylan, is there a way that we could turn Scott's mic up, or maybe Scott, maybe move the mic in front of you, or I'll give you the phone if you'd like, so we could hear.
Can John hear if I speak in my mic?
Scott's gonna try again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, John?
John, are you watching on YouTube or just on the phone?
I'm just on the phone, but I can't get on
let me grab
YouTube.
it. I'll take it.
She's saying that there's comments on the YouTube page that we need to see.
Okay, I
No,
have
we have
two issues with this. One is the access. And, traditionally, the rec board has opened it up for the community, although if you look at the board information, it doesn't necessarily have to be, so it can be restricted just to the educational needs of students. The other issue I have is the program would be making money off of taxpayer money, and that's probably the biggest sticking point that I have.
But do we have an idea whether or not the money's generated is strictly to pay expenses and not profit?
The idea from the conservation grant is any of the proceeds would be put directly back in to buy more saplings for more trees.
But they're also going to use some of the funds for their traveling and their trips, right? Is that what I
No.
understood?
No, that was not brought up at all before this meeting. No.
Okay.
It was to be put right back into the program to buy more.
So basically, it is a nonprofit. They're not doing it to make money.
It is not to buy meals or
Yeah.
travel for FFA, is my understanding.
So I can understand where Scott's going with this. I think using taxpayer money to make money, but I guess we would have to have some strict guidelines on what the funds generated would be used for and accountability tied to it to ensure that they're doing it properly, correct?
Or not making profit.
Right. To show that they're using the money and it's going right back into the greenhouse. I mean, that's what I would expect for one. And then the second item, I kind of agree with Scott to a point. I think I can't see why they can't give like 10% or a corner of it up and say this is public use in order to get the funds. I mean, if you only give them a 5 square foot area, that's access, correct?
Say if you leave the greenhouse unopened or open during certain hours, that would be access.
So we're also being told that it's not only for Farson, it's for all of Sweetwater County.
Well, I think it's all for Sweetwater County to buy the saplings, but they have to have more
But I
than
think-
3 acres.
Anybody in Sweetwater County can join their FFA
Yeah.
program. They even have students that are homeschooled that are in the FFA program.
Well, but our bylaws do say that it has to be within the district. So it has to be within Sweetwater County District Number 1, which would mean you couldn't have a student from Green River,
Oh,
because then that would be District Number 2.
right.
Well, and I think the FFA, there is only one chapter, is there not, in the county, and it's up there in Farson?
Yeah, we have it in Farson, and I believe the junior high is interested in getting that going. Our high school does not have it at this time.
Scott, do we have any other groups that make money? Not necessarily on rec money, but do we have any groups that make money?
You mean associated with the district or specific to the rec board?
Associated with the district, and what do they do with their funds? Not fundraising, but any other groups that sell products and keep the money.
I think the closest that we have are the student activity funds. That's mainly, that is mainly. yeah,
How's the money
mainly fundraising.
generated for those?
Either through sales or donations or fees
And that's specifically for theirs,
for their group.
but they
Yes.
didn't get the jump start from this.
That is correct. Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
What
Can
if,
I ask a question?
Of course.
If this project were redirected, would this be something that the FFA group could ask for support through Carl Perkins funds?
That I don't know. We would have to check. It would have to have a concentrator course that would lead to a certification with it. I don't know, John. We would have to check.
Okay. That's just a different way of funding it.
I mean, I don't think the money that they're asking for is out of line at all. 40,000 bucks is nothing. We do have to stay within the guidelines of the bylaws too.
I think you can chalk it up to community if they're providing a product for the community. I do see the issue with the money coming in. Is there a way that the money would come into the general fund? This isn't gonna be big money. Come into the general fund and be redistributed for their needs. Not so they can bank this money, but they can use the money for what they need it for. Would that be something that would get this over the hump? I can tie it to community. Even though the kids are working in on it's a community-based facility. I do agree with the money part. I don't think they should be able to make a profit on that, but the district should be able to bring in money and redistribute that money.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and it may be,
I agree also.
maybe worth looking at having them run that activity through their student activity fund as well, as opposed to the general
At least
fund
you have some
itself.
accountability and some tracking mechanism.
Otherwise, you're kind of mixing the seed money from the rec board with the money that's made going into the general fund. But if they can line it up with their FFA club in that respect, and then run the money through that way, it may be a little bit cleaner, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, I think if that's the only hangup, if we can find a way that generating money, I think it's a great idea. I think it gives back. I don't know about the money thing. I don't think there's big profit in this.
Yeah, I don't either. I guess my big question would be, if we supported the project, how or can it be challenged on whether we went outside our boundaries? And how would that happen?
I don't know if I know the answer to that.
So Leo, what did you mean by that?
Well, I mean, he's got the concern of the community access, which is, it's right there on the edge. You know, I kind of agree with Matt. I think that we can tie community in there somehow, but access is an issue. And if we passed it and we did fund it, somebody from the public can come in and say, challenge us and say, wait a minute, you went outside your bylaws and you shouldn't have been able to do that. What's the process for that? I guess that, to me, would have to be right here in a public forum right now in the process when we're discussing it, right? I mean, they can't come in after the fact because the agenda was published. It was public knowledge. They knew we were going to discuss it and vote on it. If somebody had an issue with it, they should be here to challenge it, correct?
Correct. They could do it after the fact, though, because at any of our other meetings, we still have public comment. So there's would still be an opportunity to come forward if they needed.
So let's say that happens. We've already given the money away. Do we go take it back? I don't know. Or do we don't do it again?
I don't know. So what would they do different for the access to provide it to the community as well?
I think if there was the stipulation from this board, I think they could do that.
I mean, I don't have a problem saying community access is during school scheduled times. They can't go in after hours or on weekends and things like that. If they're gonna want to have access to the greenhouse, then they should have access only during the times it's open by the school, not specifically, I mean, same thing goes with the weight room access. They have to get approval from the school to decide when they can and can't go, correct?
They do, yeah. And on that, they go, I believe, outside the school day for that one. Scott, what about for the outside auditor? What about for Cometto and Associates?
In terms of the dollars of the program. I think-
Yeah,
I
and
think-
the audit and the expenditures, and I'm just thinking of something that way, you know, if this board isn't questioned on any type of expenditure that,
Well, I think in terms of the audit, as long as it was within the statute, the expenditures would be considered allowable, at least to construct the equipment part of it. You know, I don't think that they'd probably go for buying the first round of saplings, but I don't think that's the intent either. from-
No, they have the grant that's gonna cover that, it sounds like.
she's texting. What does it say?
What if they were to, grant a small area of this greenhouse to access for the 4-H club?
I still think that providing something for people is access to what they're doing. I still believe that. If a parent or a member of the community wants to walk through there and see what they're doing, they don't necessarily have to be hands-on. They're not running our scoreboards. They're looking at our scoreboards. So we got a big fancy scoreboard that no one can touch, but they can look at. I consider that access. Using it as a
Because we
teaching,
use it as a.
using as a teaching
commercial
tool for FARSA. The only hangup I have, if that helps you guys, but the only hangup I have is the profit. If they can do something nonprofit, so they don't profit off of what they've been giving, we don't profit off our scoreboard, we don't show movies on it and charge, or
Or charge advertising.
but I think that the money is the issue. I think that's what the board is feeling right now, but I don't think the access is an issue. Because people are going to go in there and say, I want those four would look great on my 3 acres. I had access to it and I got something from them that they provided.
Even
We
though
have a lot of stuff that's not hands-on that we paid for.
I agree. You're walking a fine line there, but I
Mhm.
think the access issue is, I want to plant a tree of this sort right there. in
Can I
that
come and
corner.
look? And that's access. I think.
Isn't that your thought? That your access is, they should be able to plant anything they want inside there, not just saplings. Somebody from Joe Public.
I would say yes, as long as it wasn't illegal.
I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, I'm not trying to twist it, but if that makes sense. To me, it does.
Well, I would say that if we accept a motion on the floor, we have to put some stipulations on the motion before we move forward with it.
Leo,
Yes,
I'm wondering if part of the planning process for the FFA would be the inclusion of community members and especially other school-age kids in what they're doing. I tend to agree with you on the use of the money, that it should only be, any proceeds would be to continue the process. I mean, they're not gonna buy other influence for their program through that, maybe just for that particular area. But I think as they do their FFA projects, a lot of times what those end up being is projects that they present if they go to a conference, if they go to an FFA statewide kind of meeting, they talk about what they've done to get people involved in that. it could also be, in my opinion, it could be a way to recruit for other kids to join FFA and younger kids to be interested in agriculture. So to me, that fits the community part of it. I don't know how you divide the line where they spend the money or where they don't spend the money, other than to say is you can only purchase with your profits things that support this particular project.
Well, I think the one thing we can and should do is stipulate what the money that they do profit from can be used for. Because if we go to saying they can use it for trips and things like that, who knows what could happen there? And I think it should strictly be designed to, the money would be used to put back into saplings and equipment and services to keep the greenhouse in commission, but nothing more. You agree with that, John?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Because I think running it through the activities committee with the stipulations that the board puts on them, we at least have some accountability to audit and say, yes, it's being used properly.
Is that something we can do? Can we put stipulations on
I believe,
projects?
I believe so. You know, it's our money. We can
Yeah.
attach a string.
Okay, I was just
However,
wondering.
the question was, do we want to? Do we want to be in that business?
Yeah.
Well, we want to be in the business of tracking that also.
Mhm.
But I think we can say yes and put the stipulations on it. It's up to them to accept the stipulations. And if they don't get the money. Simple, correct? That's the way I see
I
it.
think so.
So what's your pleasure? I mean, we
We-
have to
are
pass
we
this
through-
tonight in order to have it into the budget for next month.
We do.
correct? So we gotta move on it tonight.
So I have a question. I noticed that we previously had a quote of $75,000 for a greenhouse, and I've actually seen the specs on that one. There's a new one for $17,900, $18,000. So a lot less money.
Plus the 25,000.
Plus, both of them are plus 25 installed. The 75,000,
Had included everything, didn't it?
I don't think so.
I thought it did. And then this one is the 25 and 17 for
Yeah,
43.
so you're looking at
I thought, I could be wrong on that.
You're looking at close to 45 with the combination of the,
I just want to know what the lower price one is. It a less quality greenhouse? We got to keep in mind that once we purchase this, we own it. So we have to maintain it.
So can that, if we are put stipulations on there, is that something we can do to them? It's yours to maintain. Can we turn something over after we purchase it? Because this is unique in that it would, I think in the original discussion that it was going to be after a certain time, it was going to be self-generating, self-supporting. Is there a point in time where we can wash our hands of it, or if it breaks down, then we're responsible?
well, I think what we'd have to do is treat it just like we do the turf fields and the other things that we purchase and have money set aside for future expenditures that may be needed. to keep
I
it
guess what
running.
I'm saying is if we give them a budget of their income money to replant and maintain, Dan brought up a good point, heat in the winter, other items, are we responsible for all those items? The field is different than that in that it's not making any money, where we could take everybody's usage on the field, set it aside and use it as to replace the field. We can't do that. But this is something that almost you lose control of once you give it to them. You don't lose control of the fields.
Is there heat in the greenhouse?
Yes. propane heat. So there will be propane costs. There's also electricity. So
So is that part of the purchase price, or is there just
the
extending?
propane
like-
heaters are included in there. But, I mean, you're still gonna have propane fuel cost in the wintertime during the cold seasons, period.
I think I brought this up once before, and maybe this is wrong, but would the school district pay for the propane to heat it after it's set up? And would the school district, this is small potatoes, but pay for the electric that goes in it if they're making their own money? That I kind of piggybacking
Well,
on
we
what you
don't-
said, but if they're making their own money, shouldn't pay the bills for it. These other items that we have sitting out there don't make money. This
Yeah, but,
has the potential to make money.
yeah, and I can see them maybe purchasing the propane and
Propane.
stuff. but
Yeah, the electricity would be small
Electricity,
potatoes.
I mean, yeah, but
But
we don't charge the high school and the junior high for the electricity for the scoreboards.
yeah,
But there's also the additional liability of having a propane heater in a greenhouse
in a
next to the
plastic
school.
building.
Do they got natural gas? What do they heat with up there?
It's all propane up there. You could either do that or electric heat, but I don't think we have the power source there to do electric heat.
I don't think you want to either.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, I'll leave the floor open for a motion.
So I did find out that the 75,000, Ms. McGovern's right, was for a total turnkey project from the company. The other price is just purchasing all the stuff, and we have a local vendor install and put it all together.
And he would do, that's what the 25,000.
That's his quote to do that. So it is, less money by
Wouldn't this, if
$25,000.
we approve this, would this have to go through the purchasing department of the district?
Oh, I'm sure we'll still do purchase orders just like everything else, right?
I don't think they can just go out and buy it and then us write a check.
You want to weigh in on that, Dan? It's not quite, I mean, it could be around 50.
Yeah, if it's over $50,000, and the way the state statute says is, even if you broke it up, you can't do that. So it's the total cost of the project. If it exceeds the $50,000, it has to go.
The sealed bid. If it's underneath that, you can just get,
So if they went 75, it'd have to be a sealed bid type project.
That's paying that company that they're purchasing it from to come do it all. That's, there's travel costs in there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So finding the local vendor drops it quite a bit. It's $43,070 by purchasing the unit and then having a local vendor put it together and install it and do all the stuff we need done.
So you add the two.
The two together is
Or you'd also
43,000.
have to put a
two
scope
together,
together
40.
in order if you're gonna
Yes.
do it that way.
You got 17,995 and 25,070.
So you got, if you did it that way and he did a sealed bid, it'd have to have a full scope of
Yeah.
what the project's worth and what needs to be done.
But if I'm understanding Mark, it's 48,000 total, 43,000 total install and purchase.
Yes.
So that includes shipping and all that stuff.
And that wouldn't require a sealed bid.
Right.
it
It
would
does
require
require by our policy that we have to get more than, we have to get
competitive
3 prices. Or
competitive quotes.
Yeah.
If you take the 43,070 and tack on an 8% contingency, that brings it to a little over 46,500. It's 46,515.
I guess just one last thought. Maybe it's off base, but if we had a DECA club wanted a standalone building to sell their wares out of, would we do that? I don't know. That's kind of what this is. It's a club base. It just popped into my head. I remember we had a DECA store, but you could get a request where we think it'd work better out by the tennis courts. Can you build us a building? I don't know. Just throwing that out there for thought.
Well, I can see that to a point, but I think what would be the educational purposes of DECA versus the educational purposes
Sales.
of this? Yeah.
sales and business, running a business. Just throwing that out there because it popped into my head, and because this is very similar to something like that. Are we?
No, we're gonna have to go with thumbs up or thumbs down.
Are we
in order
going
to have
on
it in
all
the
of
next
those at the
budget
same
session.
time?
Yeah, we need a motion first.
Yeah.
Whatever we do.
Do we, are we touching on the ones before that though?
We could certainly skip and come back if we wanted to,
Okay,
because there are some that have already been approved.
okay. So are you gonna put it out there, Leo?
I got the floor open for a motion.
A motion that we take a vote on.
What would the
Your
vote be
motion
on?
was- What did he say, the motion?
Approving the greenhouse or not. The purchase of the greenhouse program through the rec. No.
Did you catch that, John?
I didn't hear it completely, Leo, I'm sorry.
Well,
Motion.
what he is suggesting is we have a motion to vote on whether or not we want to move forward with the greenhouse project or not.
Okay.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? You have to ask 3 times, right? Okay, there is no second, so the motion would fail. So I'll open up the floor for another motion. Now, as the chairman, I can't make a motion, can I?
I don't know. I don't see where that. You can make a motion as
Does
the
that
chair.
just fail?
Yeah.
It just fails.
Yeah, it just fails. It doesn't, no vote enough.
So it fails for like a motion, but you could make one as chairman.
Well, I'm willing to put a motion on the floor to move forward with the greenhouse project with the FFA and the Farson High School with stipulations on money used is only or money gained is only used for expenses within the greenhouse itself. And I motion that we approve a $46,515 purchase price. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
How do we regulate that to go back into that project? Is there how would we do that, Scott? Would we be
Well, we
the,
would just have to,
but would we be the judge and jury for that?
okay. Let me amend,
Just so I know.
well, let me amend the motion. It would run, the proceeds collected would run through the activities account with the high school to be monitored and redistributed properly for just greenhouse services and equipment. Is there any more discussion? Do you want to second that part of the motion?
Yes, I'll second that one again.
All right, Tonette, can we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Mr. Duncan,
No.
Mr. Bider,
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Batolo,
No.
Mr. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Portillo,
Yes.
3-2.
Motion carries. Okay, do we need to have a motion for the other three?
Yeah, let me cover those real quick. So the next item is the auditorium sound shells, and that was approved at the previous meeting. And so we've got a line item there for 172,000. We also have wrestling mats for 10,740, which is also previously approved. And then the wetland park at a 50-50 split with major maintenance of 90,000.
Is that 90,000 direct board's price or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
So it's 180 total.
Yes, that's correct. And so then if we want to jump down to 8C, that's a purchase and installation of new synthetic turf between the shot put pits at the Rock Springs High School Stadium field. So this one came after the requests were due. However, we did get a price estimate on that. And let's see, you were involved in this one as well, right, Mark?
I was.
Okay, so we have a quote for Cheney Landscaping to do that of 9,700. And the estimate was given on 6/9, so it's still.
It's
only a
still
few
good, and I
months-
can get them to
few
update
months
it.
old.
If you guys have noticed up there between the long jump pits, they put the turf field between there to keep, when they cut grass and things like that, not to get it all up on the long jump run areas and in the sand. Same thing applies there. We just didn't fund it when we installed everything. Tom was told he would probably need to move forward and find the funds for that, and that's why he's come here, I'm sure.
So what would the purpose be of that?
It's to clean it up to begin with. There's nothing but mud between them right now. We chose not to put turf or grass and sprinkler system in there to keep it out of the long jump pits, but now it's just mud. So it'd be to clean it up, make it look better, and stop the mud from getting in everywhere else.
Leo, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is that area, do they throw the discus in that area too, or is that this is west of the stadium, right?
Yes, it's west of the stadium. It's
Okay,
before they
and
get to the green
discus,
field.
where do they throw the discus at? Is that east of the stadium?
No, that's east.
Yeah, it's the east, it's the shot, it's the long jump and shot put. The disc is on the practice field.
Yeah, the disc is on the grass field, which I don't think you're asking to do that. You got a sprinkler system.
No, it's
Okay.
just,
He's asking over there at the shot and pole vault pits,
it's
in
between
between those
the
two.
3 shot puts. There's
Okay.
2 pie-shaped
Yeah.
areas,
Yeah.
as you will, that need to be covered up. It's outside the concrete area where they throw the shot put.
Yeah, it's more of a spectator standing area. Can we do that, all of these in one motion? Or do we have to do
I
each
would,
one?
I would suggest taking each as they go because the item A, really the only update to that was the price.
Okay.
The project had already been approved, so it's just the price. And B was the project and the price. And so I think it's probably better just to take them each one.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move the high school track and timing system from the old scoreboard to the Rock Springs Junior High for a total of $3,000.
A motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we've done B, correct? B's done.
Yes, we've done B.
Can I ask
C?
one question on B? I know it's passed. Do we still get 3 bids on that? And in the motion, did Leo say not to exceed the $46,000 or $50,000 we set aside?
Yeah, 46,
46.5.
That's with that 8% contingency.
Okay, but is that not to exceed that? So if because we only have one quote, we have to get bids, don't we?
We got 2 quotes.
We do.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Well, you have to get
75,000.
formal quotes. Yeah, but you don't have to go out for bids.
Oh, you don't have to go on.
Do a sealed bid thing.
Okay. Oh, so they had to give you, okay, my bad.
But
Okay,
it
sorry.
was not proposed and approved by this board with not to exceed. It was for that exact amount, correct,
Yeah.
Mrs. West?
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, purchase the installation of new synthetic turf between the shot puts for $9,700. Is there a motion to accept that?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, then we need to do D too.
Yep, and this one is simply to reallocate the money for a geo study from the high school to the junior high. So we're keeping the dollars the same, it's just a different site that we're wanting to do a study.
That was 15,000, correct?
No, it was 8720.
Okay, 8 for 8.
Yeah, and this is at the recommendation of Dan and Mark. Yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept D for 8,700.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. And what was the other one? I think that was it, wasn't it? What are you working on?
oh, I guess we did it the hard way. So number
No, the
9, we
math.
just did number 9.
Yeah, we got to do the math, so too, correct?
Well, they were already in.
Okay, then we got to go to board approval for number 9, recommend approval to amend the preliminary budget for 2021 and 2022 to include items 8, A, B, C, D.
A motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. All right, we'll move on to board information. Recommend board member Scott Portillo, or Mark Portillo, Scott Duncan, and John Batolo were recommended by the rec board to be reappointed at the school board June 8th meeting. And I assume that was done, correct? And now we're into the officers are elected and appointed annually, effective July 1, 21. So we need to elect a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary treasurer.
Nominate Leo for chairman, Mark for vice, and Scott for treasurer.
I'll motion that we leave it as it stands.
Got a motion and a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Board discussion. I'm not sure what this one was about. Structure of future meetings.
Sure, I'll be happy to take that one. Really, this board is at a place where we're hopefully coming out of COVID-19. And so we need to visit about what the pleasure of this board would be as we move forward. So during the pandemic, we had closed meetings. They were still open to the public. We streamed all of our meetings. We advertised our meetings. We did public comment where they could provide that online. So now, as we move forward, this is really the first rec board meeting that we've had without any health orders that have governed the direction of the school district that we followed. And so for our meeting for today, we always comply with open meetings law. So our meeting was advertised the way we did before the pandemic. So we would always do that and advertise the meeting, but the actual format, it's open, the public can always come. They've always been able to come pre-pandemic as well. But what would this board like the meetings to look like? So for example, what we were doing before was we would send out a parent square to all of our families, let them know that a rec board meeting was coming, that they could do public comment online. The positive part is it puts a lot of emphasis for the rec board for input. However, they can always come in for an open meeting and do input. The downside of that is sometimes our families get desensitized to a lot of the parent squares that come through. Our staff, they do as well. So if you get too much of a good thing, it loses the effect as an effective way to communicate. So for our meeting for today, until we could visit about this a little bit, like I said, we advertised, which we would always do. We did before the pandemic. And we're streaming our meeting for today. And we'll upload that on our YouTube. But is there any preference as to what this board would like to see? Do we want to go back to what we did before? We advertised as required in the bylaws and state statute. And it lists the date, the time when the meetings would occur, all those kind of things. The agendas are online, they're available for our community, and go back to that. Or, because as you can see, we're not seeing a whole lot of difference for it, or if there's something different that this board would like to see. That's really what that item is about. And it's a little bit of a slippery slope because, for example, the foundation board, we don't do that. So there's lots of boards that we have. We, of course, the Board of Education, chooses to do things a little bit different. So, how we move forward for that July meeting would determine our path, I think.
It's a discussion.
I think we advertise like statute says and keep it the way it was before.
So you're saying don't put it on YouTube like we are?
No, you can broadcast the
Yes,
broadcast the
but-
meetings. I thought you were talking about advertising the meetings.
We could still do that. We have the technology and the capabilities to be able to do that if this board, so choose to be safe. Of course, we're doing that tonight with Dylan. Thank you, Dylan. But we could advertise in the newspaper, which we're supposed to do, and then we could stream, whatever, without doing the parent squares out there, so we don't
I agree with that.
overkill the
That's-
community or.
Yeah, that's what I agree with.
Me too. I like that.
I think the parent square is a lot.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I agree.
Leo,
Yes.
do we know how many people are watching this particular board meeting right now?
Five.
5 people.
But the thing is also is it stays out there on the YouTube, so they can go watch it at any time. So I
Yeah.
know people that go back and watch,
I agree.
the regular school board meetings after the fact, stuff like that, so.
Thank you.
Any other feedback, Dan?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. I appreciate that. And we comply with all of the statutes that we need to have open meetings and those kind of things. And we'll continue to do that. So we'll go back to what we did before. We'll advertise that for when the meetings are, with the only addition of streaming the meetings and uploading those to YouTube once they're finished. That would be really the only new change. Okay. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our last item, which would be, our next meeting will be July 21st, 2021, 4 PM, be a budget hearing and board meeting. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right, thank you for coming.